I'll be tying one of my favorite dry fly parachute patterns on one of my favorite barbless hooks that are available. It is the Allen Fly Fishing D103 barbless hook in sizes 14 through 18. This particular hook is 1x long, fine wire down eye dry fly hook. Extremely sharp, extremely durable, has a great finish on it. So check them out at www.allenflyfishing.com. Let's go ahead and begin by attaching our thread at the index point and advancing our thread halfway down the shank and cutting the excess thread. Now begin to advance your thread back towards the bend of the hook, ensuring that each thread wrap lays next to the previous one. And go ahead and advance your thread forward with your thread ending about 2 eye lengths behind the eye. Now prepare a 2 to 3 inch piece of orange McFlyLon and attach it on top of the hook shank about 2 eye lengths behind the eye. With tight and secure thread wraps, go ahead and bind down the McFlyLon on top of the hook shank and advance your thread back about 5 to 6 turns. With a pair of scissors, go ahead and cut off the butt ends of the orange McFlyLon and do so at an angle against the hook shank so it'll assist in creating a tapered abdomen. Now advance your thread back and then forward with secure thread wraps covering up all remaining butt ends of the McFlyLon. With your material hand, go ahead and grab the orange McFlyLon post and lift it upward and advance your thread forward just in front of the initial tie down point of the McFlyLon and create some thread wraps. This will help create a little bit of a thread dam which will prop up the McFlyLon in an upward angle. Now begin to create a little bit of a thread post by wrapping your thread around the McFlyLon upwards in a clockwise direction. The length of your thread post should be about 1/4 to 1/2 a shank length long. Once your post is at an appropriate height, go ahead and advance your thread downward and create some thread wraps in front of the post, continuing to angle that post in an upward direction. Now begin to advance your thread back with your thread hanging just in front of the actual bend of the hook. For the tail of this fly, we're going to use the fibers of a Coq de Leon rooster saddle hackle. Now grab a large clump of the hackle fibers, making sure the tips are aligned, and attach them right at the end of the thread base with secure thread wraps. To ensure the tails are an appropriate length, go ahead and pull the butt ends of the tail so the tails are anywhere between a full to 1/2 a shank length long. Now advance your thread forward, securing the Coq de Leon fibers on top of the hook shank as you wrap. Go ahead and cut off the Coq de Leon fibers at the same point in which you cut off the butt ends of the McFlyLon. This will assist in helping to create a smooth and tapered abdomen. Now advance your thread back to the base of the tail and advance your thread forward with your thread hanging just in front of the post. Now at this point, if you have any pieces of thread that's kind of been hanging off and kind of been sheared away from the point of the hook, you want to make sure you have a smooth body, so go ahead and use a pair of scissors and cut off those little tag pieces as close as you can to the base of the thread. Now prepare 4 individual strands of gray super hair and 1 individual strand of brown super hair, and cut all 5 pieces so the tips are even. Now attach the 5 pieces of super hair on the near side of the hook shank, just in front of the post. With your material hand, go ahead and hold on to the 5 pieces of super hair firmly, and go ahead and wrap your thread back towards the base of the tails, making sure that each thread wrap lays next to the previous one. Now begin to advance your thread forward, making sure that each thread wrap lays next to the previous one, so you have a nice smooth body of thread with no super hair showing through. With your thread hanging just in line with the post, go ahead and grab the 5 pieces of super hair and begin to wrap them tightly around the hook shank, making sure that each wrap lays next to the previous wrap. Now, to ensure that there's no gaps in between the wraps of super hair, go ahead and use your fingernail or bodkin needle to push those super hairs back against the previous wrap. Now secure the 5 pieces of super hair to the near side of the hook shank, just behind the post. And go ahead and cut off the remaining butt ends of the super hair as close as you can to the tie down point. Now go ahead and prepare a dark barred ginger rooster cape hackle feather and wrap it around the post. The barbules of the feather should extend past the eye of the hook, about 1 to 1.5 eye lengths. With the webby fibers preened off the quill, go ahead and attach it to the near side of the hook shank, making sure that the inside of the feather is facing the post when attached. Prior to securing the quill to the post, make sure that the length of the quill is slightly longer than the thread post. Now begin to advance your thread up along the length of the post, securing the quill to the post as you wrap. Now advance your thread back down with your thread hanging just in line with the post. Now cut off the excess quill as close as you can to the hook shank. Now apply a small amount of Adams Gray Superfine dubbing to your thread. Go ahead and wrap your thread around the hook shank, creating a pronounced thorax with a slight taper from the front of the post to just behind the eye. Now grasp the hackle feather and begin to wrap it clockwise around the post, ensuring that the quill lays next to the previous wrap as you wrap down. Also make sure that the inside of the feather is facing upward as you wrap. This will help ensure that the fibers point upward instead of downward. Now go ahead and secure the tip of the hackle feather just in front of the eye of the hook with secure thread wraps. It helps to angle the thread really close to the eye of the hook to ensure that you don't bind down any hackle fibers near the eye. With your material hand, go ahead and pull the post backwards so you expose the head of the fly so you can create some secure thread wraps binding down that hackle. Now go ahead and cut off the excess feather as close as you can to the tie down point and trim off any excess hairs that may be crowding the eye. Now secure the thread just behind the eye with 3 to 4 secure half-hitch wraps using a half-hitch tool. Go ahead and cut off the excess thread. In preparation for cutting the top of the post, you want the length of the post to be about a shank length long. So go ahead and take the same style hook that you tied with and measure it against the post to ensure it's a proper length. And that's how you tie Ava's Hi-Vis parachute atoms.